Givenchy is one of fashion's most famous names. So why has it become so hard to explain? Not because the name disappeared. Givenchy is still Givenchy. It still has the history, the couture legacy, the Audrey Hepburn mythology, the Parisian glamour, the kind of archive most brands could only dream of. But that is exactly what makes the last few years so strange. Because somewhere along the way, one of fashion's most elegant houses became harder and harder to define. It moved from aristocratic elegance to dark celebrity luxury, from royal wedding dresses to streetwear, hardware, hype, and public controversies that made people question not just the clothes, but the judgment behind them. Some chapters were successful. Some were divisive. But together, they left Givenchy feeling less like a house with a clear identity and more like a famous name searching for one. Now, Sarah Burton has arrived with what looks like a serious reset. So can Givenchy become desirable again without losing what made it Givenchy in the first place? To understand how unclear Givenchy became, you have to understand how perfectly defined it was at the beginning. When Count Hubert de Givenchy opened his fashion house in Paris in 1952, he wasn't trying to shock the world. He was an aristocrat, and he designed for high society. His clothes were refined, restrained, and impeccably tailored. He had trained alongside the legendary Elsa Schiaparelli, which gave him a quiet sense of fantasy. But he never let the spectacle overpower the elegance. He understood that true luxury didn't need to scream for attention. And then, in 1953, a meeting happened that would define the brand forever. A young actress named Audrey Hepburn walked into his studio looking for costumes for her upcoming film, Sabrina. Givenchy was expecting Katharine Hepburn. When he saw Audrey, thin, gaming, wearing slim black capri pants, a t-shirt, ballet flats, and a gondolier's hat with the word Venezia on it, he said he was too busy. But she insisted on trying on his samples anyway. They had dinner that night, and by the end he told her he would do anything for her. The result was fashion history. The little black dress from Breakfast at Tiffany's, the stunning gowns and funny face. Hubert didn't just design clothes for Audrey Hepburn, he designed her entire public persona. She became his ultimate muse, and in return, she made Givenchy the global symbol of effortless mid-century chic. Their partnership was so profound that it transcended the typical designer-muse relationship. They were lifelong friends who defined an entire era of style together. For nearly 4 decades, Hubert ran his house with absolute precision. He dressed Jackie Kennedy, Grace Kelly, and the Duchess of Windsor. He created the first celebrity-fronted fragrance campaign, L'Interdit, originally made as a private gift for Hepburn before being released to the public in 1957, with Audrey as the face, making her the first actress to front a perfume advertisement. He built a legacy so strong that when the great Cristobal Balenciaga closed his own atelier in 1968, he personally directed his elite clientele to Givenchy, encouraging his most devoted clients to transfer their loyalty to his former protégé. But in 1988, the modern luxury industry came knocking. Hubert sold his beloved maison to Bernard Arnault's LVMH conglomerate. He stayed on for a few more years, trying to maintain the quiet dignity of his house within a rapidly corporatizing industry, but by 1995, he retired from the house. The founder was gone, and the house of Givenchy was suddenly handed over to a series of designers who had very different ideas about what elegance looked like. When LVMH took full control, they didn't look for another quiet aristocrat. They looked for noise. The luxury market was changing, and Arnault wanted designers who could generate headlines and drive massive global attention. In 1995, they hired John Galliano, making him the first British designer to lead a French couture house since Charles Frederick Worth in the 19th century. Galliano brought theatricality, sending models down the runway in Marie Antoinette-inspired corsets and massive skirts. It was a shock to the system, a sharp departure from Hubert's restrained elegance. But it was brief. After just 1 year, LVMH moved Galliano to Dior, and Givenchy briefly became the place where the group tested some of fashion's most explosive new creative energy. To replace him, they made an even more controversial choice, Alexander McQueen. McQueen was a working-class British outsider known for his dark, aggressive punk aesthetic. Putting him in charge of Audrey Hepburn's favorite brand was a deliberate cultural clash. and it showed. McQueen's runway shows featured religious symbolism, martyrdom, and iconoclastic designs that unsettled Givenchy's traditional haute couture clients. He famously felt constrained by the atelier system, and his time at the house was marked by tension between his own vision and Givenchy's old-world expectations. After 5 years, McQueen left for the Gucci Group, leaving behind a brand that was famous for its runway spectacles but still struggling to define its core customer. He was replaced by Julian McDonald, who pivoted the brand toward Hollywood glamour, dressing pop stars like Madonna and Beyoncé in shimmering, seductive gowns. The clothes created visible red carpet moments, but critics often questioned whether this direction gave the brand a deep enough identity as a couture house. In just 10 years, Givenchy had gone from aristocratic restraint to theatrical corsets, to punk rebellion, to red carpet flash. The brand was famous, but it was already beginning to suffer from a serious identity problem. It was a famous name attached to whatever the current designer felt like doing. And then, in 2005, a young Italian designer arrived and changed everything. Riccardo Tisci didn't just design for Givenchy, he completely rewired its DNA. When Tisci took over, he introduced an aesthetic that critics called urban Gothic Baroque. He took the high-end craftsmanship of Parisian couture and fused it with the dark, aggressive energy of streetwear. It was a massive risk, but it was exactly what the culture was waiting for. Suddenly, the brand wasn't about little black dresses anymore. It was about Rottweiler graphics snarling from the front of oversized sweatshirts. It was about heavy metal stars studded around the collars of Cuban-fit tees. It was about dark floral prints, neoprene, and Gothic religious iconography, and the culture obsessed over it. Tisci understood the power of the new celebrity hierarchy. He didn't chase traditional Hollywood actors. He dressed the royalty of hip-hop and pop. Kanye West, Jay-Z, Rihanna, and Beyoncé became the new faces of Givenchy. When Kanye and Jay-Z launched their legendary Watch the Throne tour, Tisci designed the merchandise, officially blurring the line between high fashion and concert tees. He made it acceptable, even desirable, for a luxury house to sell graphic t-shirts alongside haute couture gowns. For 12 years, Riccardo Tisci made Givenchy one of the most culturally dominant brands in fashion. He proved that a historic couture house could sell graphic t-shirts to a younger audience and still maintain its luxury status. He built a powerful business model that relied on selling accessible streetwear items funded by the halo effect of his dark, romantic runway shows. As one critic noted, contemporary fashion is divided into a before and after Tisci. But in 2017, Tisci stepped down to pursue other opportunities, and LVMH was faced with an impossible question. Do you keep chasing the streetwear hype that Tisci built, or do you try to return to the elegance of the founder? They chose elegance. And for a moment, it looked like the right answer. To replace Tisci, the brand hired Claire Waite-Keller, the first woman to ever lead the house. Her mandate was clear: bring back the sophistication. Waite-Keller returned to the archives, focusing on clean lines, sharp tailoring, and luxurious materials. She wanted to remind the world that Givenchy was, at its core, a house of refined Parisian elegance. And in May 2018, she delivered the ultimate coup. She designed the wedding dress for Meghan Markle when she married Prince Harry. It was a massive global moment. The dress was widely praised for its minimalist, timeless beauty. For a brief second, it felt like the spirit of Hubert de Givenchy and Audrey Hepburn had returned. The brand was back on the front pages of every newspaper in the world, associated once again with royalty and grace. But the fashion market had changed. While the royal wedding generated incredible press, that kind of visibility did not automatically translate into a clear, lasting fashion identity for the house. Waite-Keller's Givenchy was elegant and respected, but it struggled to create the same level of cultural heat that Tisci had built before her. In 2020, she left the brand after 3 years. Then the brand swung the pendulum back in the other direction. They hired Matthew M. Williams, the founder of the hype-driven streetwear brand 1017 Alix 9SM. Williams had worked closely with Kanye West and Travis Scott. The strategy was obvious. Reconnect Givenchy with modern street culture and try to recapture some of the energy that had made the Tisci era so powerful. Williams stripped away much of the softness and replaced it with industrial hardware, utilitarian fabrics, and aggressive silhouettes. He introduced the cutout Antigona bag and focused heavily on chunky metal locks and chains. But instead of giving the house a clear identity, the era quickly became divisive. During the spring/summer 22 runway show in Paris, models walked down the runway wearing necklaces in both gold and silver that appeared to resemble a hangman's noose. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Fashion watchdogs like Diet Prada called out the brand, and many people questioned how such a design had been approved, especially after Burberry had faced a similar controversy only a few years earlier. Givenchy issued an apology, but the moment reinforced the feeling that the house's judgment was under scrutiny, and it was not the only public misstep. In 2019, the brand also apologized to Chinese consumers after a t-shirt listed Hong Kong and Taiwan separately from China, prompting backlash and a product recall. These were different controversies, but together, they added to the sense that Givenchy was not only struggling creatively, it was also making decisions that raised questions about oversight, sensitivity, and direction. Beyond the controversies, Williams's Givenchy struggled to create the kind of clear, desirable identity that Tisci had built before him. The hardware-heavy aesthetic had moments, but for many critics and legacy fans, it felt more like Matthew Williams than Givenchy. The magic of the Tisci era couldn't be artificially recreated. Thus, by January 2024, Williams had stepped down from the role. The brand was adrift. In the span of a few years, they had gone from Meghan Markle's royal wedding to a noose necklace controversy. The brand had not disappeared, but it had become difficult to read. They needed a reset. And they found one in the most poetic place possible. In September 2024, LVMH announced that Sarah Burton would be the new creative director of Givenchy. The appointment immediately made sense. For 26 years, Burton had worked at Alexander McQueen, spending the last 13 years as its creative director after McQueen's tragic death. She was universally respected for her craftsmanship, her emotional storytelling, and her deep respect for heritage. She was the designer who had created Kate Middleton's wedding dress, proving she understood how to handle massive cultural moments with grace. Her appointment was also deeply symbolic. Alexander McQueen had famously struggled at Givenchy in the late 90s, feeling constrained by the very house he was meant to lead, never able to honor its heritage and satisfy his own vision at the same time. Now his closest collaborator was returning to do precisely what McQueen could not. It felt like the closing of a circle. In March 2025, Burton presented her debut collection for the brand at Paris Fashion Week. The anticipation was massive. Would she bring the dark romance of McQueen? Would she try to reinvent the wheel? Instead, she did something radical. She went back to the beginning. Burton spent months in the Givenchy archives studying Hubert's original sketches from 1952. Her runway show was a masterclass in precision. Dramatic hourglass coats, geometric baby doll dresses, and crisp, modern tailoring. It wasn't streetwear, and it wasn't costume. It was assertive, feminine, and undeniably elegant. She returned to the heart of the atelier, focusing on the actual construction of the garments rather than relying on logos or hardware. The reviews were overwhelmingly positive. Critics praised her for cutting through the noise and returning the brand to its roots. It felt like the clearest Givenchy had looked in years. She followed it up with a second collection in October 2025, turning up the glamour volume and re-establishing the house as a serious player in red carpet dressing. She even won British Women's Wear Designer of the Year at the 2025 Fashion Awards. But critical praise does not automatically equal commercial success. Sarah Burton has restored a sense of dignity and direction to the brand. But she is operating in a brutal luxury market where conglomerates expect growth, visibility, and cultural relevance at the same time. LVMH has seen pressure in recent quarters, and the pressure on every major fashion house to perform is immense. She has to prove that impeccable tailoring and quiet elegance can actually compete with the loud, viral marketing machines of her rivals. So here's the question. Can Sarah Burton finally break the curse of Givenchy's revolving door? Can she prove that a brand doesn't need to rely on streetwear hype or shocking controversies to be relevant? Or is the modern fashion industry simply too impatient for the kind of quiet, aristocratic elegance that Hubert de Givenchy built his name on? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.